So we're here with Haley Carter, the new goalkeeping coach of the Afghanistan national women's team, which is really cool. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so kind of a cool opportunity. I think probably the coolest opportunity ever that I've gotten to do. So I was hooked up through, so my personal sponsor is Hummel, and Hummel International is also the kit sponsor and equipment sponsor for the Afghanistan Football Federation. And through Hummel, I was able to link up with Khalida Popal, who is a former captain of the women's national team for Afghanistan. She's retired. She had a pretty significant knee injury, and but now she's still working with the Afghanistan sort of project group with Hummel. She recently helped design the new kits that were released with the hijab built into the base layer. They're pretty
really
sick.
Cool looking, yeah.
So that's a really cool thing. There's a lot of money and a lot of awareness and attention sort of being pumped into that, both into the Federation and into the women's side. And the Federation in Afghanistan has done a really good job about appointing like a women's football committee and trying to help drive those resources. And there's a lot of progressive thinking there actually around it. So we're getting a lot of support internally and then through Hummel, and I've discussed with West Coast Goalkeeping as well. They're going to help supply gloves to the goalkeepers, and it's kind of like things are just sort of falling in place. And I got the official word. What was that? Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it was Monday.
That I was given the position. So that's pretty exciting. The head coach was also just announced this morning, Kelly Lindsay. She played for Randy as well, so that's kind of cool.
Little connection there.
Yeah, and she actually is based in Hong Kong. She works at the Major League Soccer Academy there, so one of our training camps in the fall will actually be through the academy in Hong Kong. So a lot of cool events coming up. And
so how long has it been since Afghanistan actually had an organized
So it's kind of been off and on, but if you look at it historically, I mean, really taking it seriously, maybe 2011, 2012, when they're like competing in like internationally sanctioned events. They were playing against like NATO teams in Afghanistan, and now looking bigger picture and the South Asian games and like Nepal, and so there's a lot of movement there, which is fun. Pakistan's usually pretty good actually. So it's kind of, I say it's been off and on because obviously with the political and security issues, political sensitivities, it's been hard to kind of invest in that. And I think this is really one of the biggest pushes, I think, to find quality players that could qualify to play for Afghanistan under FIFA rules and around the world, and then bring them together to make them part of it. So it's kind of fun, you see other national teams doing that. Mexico does it with American players. So it's kind of cool to see that sort of strategy taking place.
I mean, we all know about the Taliban and the things that they did that kept women from having these types of opportunities when they were in charge. What's the driving force behind this? I know Hummel's involved in starting up a domestic league too.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, if you know much about the history in Afghanistan, and things were pretty modern culturally through the beginning of the 90s, and then as we get into the 90s, things sort of shifted a little bit, and the cultural sensitivity started to become a problem. And then as we roll up into the 2000s and where we're at now, we've kind of gone back to that a little bit. In the major cities, there's a push to get women playing football, and there is an Afghanistan Women's League, and it's still, girls still have to be careful playing it. It's still a little bit outspoken of an action to do, but it's growing a little bit. I think there's more opportunities there. But the cool thing is the opportunity to get, there's a lot of girls that play in Europe. Several players on the team live in Germany, and there's girls here in the U.S. And so there's, it's kind of cool to get the girls who kind of either were born in Europe or girls that have left Afghanistan, like Khalida got out of Afghanistan and is now in Denmark. So there's a lot of, it's kind of fun. You get a little bit of the girls coming out of Afghanistan and then trying to grow that team externally as well.
Is there, within the national team, is there a push to kind of balance it between local players playing the domestic leagues? I talked with back in Olympic qualifying.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think it's as culturally difficult to manage as like some of the other scenarios, like Mexico. I know historically there's been kind of a tension and a rift there, but right now it's kind of like, let's just get the best group of girls together, and there are several in Afghanistan that are very good. So we're just trying to put as many of the best talent out there as we can and then go from there. I mean, obviously that, we want to give those girls an opportunity, and we want to make sure that that they are seen, and they're the ones that are really, really, putting their lives at risk to play this game. So but I would say that I don't think there's that tension now, because right now we're just sort of building it from scratch, and kind of it's like a clean slate, and we're trying to rebuild from.
What about the process of scouting and finding players outside of Afghanistan? I mean, unfortunately, Nadia's already spoken for it, but
yeah, decent. So we have an event. We have a couple events coming up in Europe. One that we're trying to get a delegation over to is an event in the Netherlands in the beginning of June. And it's an opportunity for us to kind of get together, plan out our year, and then to scout players to come over to the U.S. for the training camp here in September. So the Football Federation in Afghanistan is identifying women that are in Afghanistan that they think are the best players to come over, and then we're going to try and meet in Europe and identify those, and then again in the U.S. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of efforts. We've got Kelly over in Hong Kong and me here, and Khalida in Europe. So between the different continents, we're just trying to put something together. But yeah.
So you have the event in the Netherlands, you'll have the training camp here in the U.S. and California, right? In September.
Yep.
And then is it November when you have the South Asian?
Right. So we have a training camp in November for 10 days in Hong Kong, and then following that training camp, we'll be going to the South Asian Games in the Maldives, the last part of December, beginning of January. So it'll be a good New Year.
Now, in terms of funding, I mean, that's always. During Olympic qualifying, talking with Mark Rodriguez, the coach of Guyana at the time, who was doing something somewhat similar, very different circumstances politically, obviously, but very similar. And there they had a limited amount of funding, so he spent a lot of his own money. The players spent a lot of their own money. The coaching staff spent a lot of their own money. How's the funding for this? Where's it coming from? And does it cover everything?
Hummel's been great. They're pumping quite a bit of money and support into the initiative. And they're going to cover like our best players to travel from Europe or Asia or wherever to come to the U.S. They're going to cover that stuff. They're covering obviously the kits as well, but there's some things that we've got to go out of pocket for. And I've set up a GoFundMe account to try and raise some funds, and I'm sure we're going to have some more events between now and the fall. But in the immediate term, we've got to raise funds to get our delegation over to Europe for the event for the Netherlands, so we can recruit players and kind of meet and throw our ideas around. About the rest of the year, and then we have a couple days for our training camp in September that we're going to have to cover as well, with lodging, transportation like vans, and meal expenses and stuff like that. So the first part of that training camp is going to be kind of a mini tournament between the players that we bring in, kind of a mini camp evaluation tournament. And then from that point on, we're going to set up probably 3 matches with local teams in the Bay Area, women's teams. I think we have a WPSL team and an NPL team, and I think an ECNL team as well that we're looking at playing against. So we're trying to vary the level a little bit because we're not quite sure what we're going to have. But those extra days are going to be days that we're going to have to come out of pocket to cover that. So,
if people want to participate and support the activities that you guys are doing, it's GoFundMe. How do they find it?
So I have it. I've posted on my public Twitter account and my public Facebook profile, and then I send it to you so you can share it. And but it's titled the AFF Women's Fund, so you can Google. I might actually need to make it searchable. I was a little bit hesitant about how searchable I wanted to make it, just because of the security issues, and it is still something I have to keep in mind. So.
Now for you, I mean, you were going to play out this season with the Dash, then you were going to retire after you unretired going into this season.
So I was going to go to law school.
Right.
And the University of Houston Law Center has been gracious enough to let me defer for a year. I actually sent them the request and the letter from the Afghanistan Football Federation. I told them what was going on, and within 5 minutes, Jamie, one of the deans, wrote back to me immediately and was like, I absolutely grant your request for deferment. So And we went back and forth over email, and she's pretty excited about that. She said, I want to know all of the details when you get back. So.
And on top of all this, you have a full-time job too. So how do you manage all of that?
I have a really supportive husband.
and a kid. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, I have a really supportive husband. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't do any of this without Michael. So he's really excited about it, and it's interesting. You know, he spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. Was in some pretty hairy situations in Afghanistan. So of all of the people that you would think would be a little bit hesitant about it, he's actually been like the #1 proponent of doing this. And he's kind of likened it to, you know, like beating terrorists with an M4 and beating terrorists with a soccer ball. Like, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so, you know, like it's a good opportunity. And I think that he, being around women athletes and being around women soccer players, he's seen how small the world is, and the opportunity to like make the world a better place using our network and resources, and it's just, there are infinite possibilities out there. So I think he's really bought into it, so that makes it quite a bit easier for me to, I mean, you know, your wife does the same thing.
Yeah.